Imagine a small Hungarian village in 1882. A 14-year-old girl disappears. Within days, whispers turn into accusations. The local Jewish community is blamed for a horrific ritual murder, a modern blood libel. But what really happened? And how did science, law, and politics collide in one of Europe's most famous trials? This is the story of the Tiszaeszlár Affair, where forensic science met political manipulation and truth faced prejudice. The Tiszaeszlár Affair took place in a complex time. The Austro-Hungarian Empire had granted Jewish citizens full civil and political rights. Many Jews succeeded in business and professions, blending into society. But political anti-Semitism was rising. Jews were portrayed as outsiders, threatening the Hungarian nation. On April 1, 1882, Esther Solmosi, a 14-year-old Christian servant girl, went missing. The timing was significant, the Sabbath right before Passover. This linked her disappearance to the old and dangerous myth of the blood libel, the false accusation that Jews killed Christian children for religious rituals. What began as a local concern quickly became national news. Politicians Gesa Obondi and Giozo Istosi amplified rumors, framing Esther's disappearance as proof of Jewish fanaticism. They bypassed local procedures and brought the matter to the Hungarian parliament, making it a political spectacle. Under this pressure, Esther's mother formally accused the Jews of murder on May 4, 1882, launching an official investigation. The investigation was flawed from the start. Judge Joseph Bari was appointed to lead it. He was openly anti-Semitic and consulted political agitators during the inquiry. Bari combined roles normally separated in law: investigator, prosecutor, and judge. This created a biased and unlawful process. The authorities targeted the Scharf children, beginning with a 5-year-old Samuel. He was primed with gifts to produce statements linking his father to the alleged murder. The real focus soon shifted to 14-year-old Moritz Scharf, who was separated from his family and kept under intimidation, threats, and cruelty for over a year. Under extreme pressure, he produced a detailed false confession describing the ritual murder. Moritz's testimony described a horrifying sequence. His father lured Esther. A beggar led her into the synagogue, and 2 men held her down while the shochet supposedly cut her neck and collected her blood. Moritz claimed he witnessed all this through a keyhole for 45 minutes. Yet there was no corroborating evidence. Investigators searched homes, the synagogue, and cemeteries, but found no body, no blood, and no murder weapon. The investigation was not a search for truth. It was a legal charade supporting a political agenda. On June 18, 1882, more than 10 weeks after Esther's disappearance, a body was found in the Tisza River near Tisza. It was dressed in Esther's clothes. Her mother initially hesitated but identified the clothes. This discovery shifted the case from coerced testimony to forensic science, setting the stage for a battle between local prejudice and modern medical analysis. The first autopsy, conducted by a local committee, claimed the body was an 18 to 20-year-old, dead only 8 to 10 days. They even speculated it was a married Jewish woman, using unscientific cultural assumptions. The defense arranged a second autopsy on December 7, 1882, by 3 leading professors from the University of Budapest, Shentenhor, Belki, and Michalkovich. They challenged the first report, calling it biased and unscientific. They examined the bones and teeth, which indicated the victim could have been a young girl like Esther. Critically, they found the neck was not cut, refuting the ritual murder described by Moritz. There was no bleeding, no wounds, and no signs of exsanguination. After 10 weeks in water, classical signs of drowning, such as foam at the mouth, pale overexpanded lungs, and water in the stomach and airways, often degrade. The professors from Budapest used two key principles to determine drowning. One was logical exclusion, no signs of trauma or murder, ruling out ritual killing. Two was contextual consistency. The body was recovered from the river, showing patterns compatible with submersion. This method was probabilistic and systematic. They combined what was present with what was absent and ruled out alternative causes. Their conclusions were corroborated by Edward Hoffmann in Vienna and Rudolf Virchow in Berlin, giving the findings international credibility. The trial in Mirgahaza ran from June 19th to August 3rd, 1883, with 15 Jewish defendants. The prosecution relied entirely on Moritz Scharf's coerced testimony. There was no other credible evidence. The defense, led by Károly Eötvös, focused on methodically dismantling the prosecution's case. He exposed contradictions in Moritz's statements and used forensic science to challenge the ritual murder narrative. The critical moment came on July 16, 1883, when the court visited the synagogue. The keyhole Moritz claimed to see through was very low. To view inside, he would have to contort painfully, and even then, the view was extremely limited. His detailed 45-minute account became physically impossible. Eötvös combined this demonstration with the forensic evidence, including the uncut neck and absence of trauma, showing the murder story was false. On August 3, 1883, all accused were acquitted. The court stated the charges were not proved instead of declaring outright innocence, reflecting the political pressure around the case. Despite the acquittal, anti-Semitic agitation continued. Riots broke out in cities across Hungary. Obundi and Istoczi turned the trial into a political platform, founding the first Hungarian national anti-Semitic party, winning 17 parliamentary seats in 1884. Internationally, the trial drew attention, showing the clash between superstition and modern forensic science and influencing later ritual murder trials across Europe. The Tiszaeszlár Affair remains a symbol of both scientific progress and political manipulation. It highlighted the power of forensic science to challenge false accusations. At the same time, it exposed how propaganda and prejudice can manipulate public perception. For Jews and liberal intellectuals, it became a warning of the dangers of irrational hatred. For far-right nationalists, it became a story used to fuel prejudice. Moritz Scharf later recanted his coerced testimony and lived in obscurity, while the blood libel narrative persisted politically, shaping Hungarian society for decades to come.